No, because they swapped the curriculum. That's tragic. Oh yeah, you're the tutor.
All right, a couple quick announcements here. So tomorrow you do have your quiz over 19B and 19C. Okay, so make sure you have that. You can do all that homework on the same paper. That's fine. Just make sure you have that ready to go. And then after the quiz tomorrow, you'll work on the review, which will be due Wednesday. And then we got our test on Thursday. So wrapping it up here this week. And just a note, we will have class on Friday. So sorry, no blended days this week, but you'll get a couple the next week. So, all right. So plan on being there every day this week for what we got going on here. So, okay. But Friday we'll kind of go over all what the review's going to be like. It'll be similar to last year's a little bit. So we'll get you going on that. So. All right, let's talk about the lab you're going to do here. This is the last lab, so this is going to be applying some of the things we've learned about in both 19B and 19C. So this is a good review for the quiz tomorrow as well. Now, basically what we did here with the lab is I went ahead and collected the data for you just to make this a little quicker. Before we would do this, it would take really the whole class period to collect the data and then had to do all the lab outside of class. So I'm trying to streamline that a little bit. But I will show you what we did. And I left the preparation and the procedures in the lab just so you could kind of see it, what we did. But basically, we got this idea from a workshop we went to one time. And I was like, oh, this might work. And this sounds pretty cool. So what we did is we took one of those solenoids, one of those coils, right? Okay. And then we put it on a track. Okay. And then had this cart. And then we made like this rod and put some really strong magnets on the end of it to create a nice magnet that had a nice magnetic field to it. Okay, you can see here's a little bit of a diagram of what we did, and then we just basically gave the car a small push. We didn't have it going very fast, but pushed it and allowed the cart then to stick the magnetic field through the coil. Okay. So you can probably see where we're going with this based on what we learned last week, right? So we have a moving magnetic field that we're putting into a coil. And if that is true, we should be inducing some voltage, some EMF, and also some current. So what we did is we hooked up some meters to the coil and saw, hey, what kind of current did this produce as a result of sticking a magnetic field that's moving through there? Now, here's the neat thing about this is the magnetic field is moving and it's changing, and we get some different things when we go into the coil versus when we exit the coil. All of those things come into play here, right? Okay, so that's kind of the scenario of how we did this. Now, what you're going to do is you're going to make some predictions a little bit before you actually open the data and conduct any of the trials. Like I already conducted them for you, but before you open the data, make a little bit about some things that you think you would see in terms of how is the current going to behave as this thing moves. Remember we talked about what happens to create the magnetic flux, right? You need the flux changing to create the voltage, which would then create the current, okay, and so forth. So think a little bit about that. So that's kind of really what number one is just having you make some predictions about this, okay? And then once you're done doing that, it'll ask you to make some rough sketches of what you think is going to happen in the current versus time graph that we created or that we collected. And then we also collected a velocity versus time graph as well. Okay. So when it asks you to collect the trial, that's already been done for you. You'll see these on the website. There are actually 4 different trials we did. Okay. So in the first trial, we moved from point A to E. And when we talk about that, we are referencing the diagram that I had up here a minute ago, okay, where you can see positions A, B, C, D, and E. So you got those kind of as your reference points. So in the first trial, we went from A to E. The second trial, we went backwards. We went from E down to A, right? So we just pushed the cart the other way, okay? And then in the last 2 trials, we flipped the magnetic field into the same set of trials, okay? So you'll notice in the first set, the magnetic field is pointed north to south, so the south end entered into the loops first. when we did the last two trials, we flipped it so the north end went in first. Okay. So remember, our magnetic field moves from north to south, so that tells you a little bit something about the direction of that magnetic field too. Is that one in there? Okay. So really, this is just going to be about making some predictions at first. Okay. Then opening up the data file and seeing how your predictions landed there. Okay. Answering some questions about that. And then again, you're going to kind of repeat and say, okay, well, if we do it this slightly different way, what might change? Okay. So try to do those before you kind of look at them. If you get some of your predictions wrong, it's not a big deal, but hopefully get you thinking about what's going on here from a magnetic flux changing perspective. Okay. All right. Anywhere where it asks you to draw a graph, you're fine. You don't need graph paper today. You're just going to be drawing what you think the general shapes of these things are, and that's really all we're interested in. Okay. So once you're ready to open up the files, remember you need to download these onto your Google Drive first, right? So I think if you do a 2-finger click on there, it should give you an option of saving those. Save them to your Google Drive, and then you'll need to open up the software called Graphical Analysis, right? Open up that software, and then from that software, you can open up the file that you saved to your Google Drive. If you need help with that, because we haven't done that for a while in here, let me know. We've done that process before a few other times. So, but that's how you'll see it. Here's an example of one of the graphs. This is kind of what you'll see: current versus time, velocity versus time when you open them up. So, okay. I'll let you guys kind of get going here. Let me know if you have questions or you need help with the files when it comes time for that process as well. So, okay.